Hello, Night Nation. I'm Trey Strolga. Welcome into Sons of UCF Live. Welcome in, Adam Eaton. Hello, Adam.
Greetings, Trace. How are you? How are you, Night Nation? A fun one tonight. We've got baseball on the horizon. Softball's off to a great start. We'll learn some Oklahoma State stuff. Bowtie Ben, not so much. Will be here this week. And we'll get to know Oklahoma State a little bit, Trace. An action-packed agenda. Glad you're all with us.
That Bowtie Ben is really stuck, hasn't it? We have a fashion expectation based on wins and losses.
We really do, yeah. And the bow tie takes some time to do as well. It's not just like slapping a tie on. He's got to actually make some effort there. So hopefully we get on the bow tie bandwagon soon here, Trace. It's been a rough week-ish for our beloved men's basketball team.
Yeah, let's begin with a little football talk, which I've got to tell you, you and I both traveling this week, catching up on news, in and out of conversations and the like. This has got to have been the slowest week for new football news that we've had so far this year.
Is that good or bad though? Right? Because last year it was like, who's the new coach? Who's this player? Who's that player? Like, what are we doing here? Maybe the slowness, air quotes, is we're settling down a little bit. Things are starting to kind of churn and run and whatnot. But yes, I agree. We were talking earlier and we were scraping the bottom of the barrel for what's new in football. And I think we came up with some stuff, but it took at least a good solid 10 minutes for us to figure that out.
Yeah, and you know what's going to be interesting? Nothing official yet from UCF, but you have heard, I have heard, they're talking about a couple weeks later than usual for the start of spring camp. We may be into late March before we start seeing practice clips for 10 minutes and, speculating recklessly.
Well, if you think about it, it makes sense too, by the way. Usually, historically, the spring calendar there, that spring break usually splits the spring camp almost in half, right? So you go a week, you take a week off, you come back a week. That's probably not what coaches want from an install perspective, from a conditioning standpoint. These are college kids, by the way. They're off in spring break doing God knows what on their own time, right? So I think you'll probably see this go after spring break to just allow for some of that, some of that continuity for multiple weeks in a row.
Well, one piece of news to share from UCF football: NFL scouting combine invites to Malachi Lawrence and Nigel E. Kelly. Stock seems to be rising for these two guys. 319 total invited. There are two of them. Two we may see drafted by the NFL teams this spring.
Interesting. Makes you wonder why our defense maybe wasn't as great as it could have been at times too. But look, I think they're two prototypical defensive ends in the NFL, right? They're both long, lanky. I think Malachi's kind of got some bend to him at times too. I think his name was out there for a while as somebody who popped at I think it was the East West Shrine Bowl. And I think he had some good rep at Senior Bowl as well. So, yeah, it's always good to see. I think our good buddy UCF Mike used to call the combine the Underwear Olympics. So it's always good to see UCF represented at that event. And hopefully these guys get a chance to get drafted. That's obviously really cool. I'm sure we want to add more names to the wall inside of that room in the Wayne Dench.
Do you think they're going to add anything for guys who won a Super Bowl? My Seattle Seahawks are Super Bowl champs, and Amari Kite and Shaquille Griffin. I think people know of Amari Kite being on the Seahawks, but I think they've forgotten Shaquille Griffin was part of the team as well.
Practice squad for Shaquille, I think, for most of the year. And that's also cool for him. He was an original Seahawk. Then he bounced around. I think he was with the Jags and the Texans for a period of time. Gets back to Seattle. So that's cool for him to kind of get back in that environment and see them win a Super Bowl. Trace, not something I think. If you had the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl, raise your hand now because you're lying to everybody because there's no way.
Going into the New England game or at the start of the season?
At the start of the season. There's no way anybody saw this coming. And so hats off to Seattle. But cool to see some former Knights. I saw Herb Hand, old offensive line coach, posted a picture of Amari Kite FaceTiming him after the game with the Super Bowl trophy in hand. It's always cool to see those connections between coach, player, and hopefully university down the road.
Do you know this? Do practice squad players get Super Bowl rings?
I assume so. Yeah, I assume if you're on the official roster, which I think practice squad guys are, he was celebrating like he was getting one. So I hope he is. If not, he's in for a bit of a rude awakening. But I do believe, and I imagine he probably got, somebody can fact check this for us. I don't know if we have some, Miguel, maybe, I don't know. He probably got in a game at some point this year and played, which I believe makes you eligible for jewelry. It's also interesting, Trace, that the most macho sport in the world, where you bash each other's heads in and you're vomiting on the field, the greatest prize is a ring. It's just funny how that works out.
A gaudy ring at that. I don't know how often you're wearing that thing, but congratulations to those two former Knights that are Super Bowl champs. We continue our look at position groups as we get closer to spring camp, maybe a month or so still out. I think it's something you said about the tight end position, that if your leading receiver is a tight end, maybe things have not gone as well as you had hoped offensively. But it is good for the Knights to have senior Dylan Wade back.
Yeah, he obviously ended up being kind of the bright spot of that passing attack for UCF last year, which obviously was limited for many different reasons. And so curious how this year's tight end room will fare with obviously new quarterbacks and potentially new system. Also a new coach, Trace. Last year, Steve Cooper split time coaching the tight ends and the offense in general. UCF brings in Cooper Bassett to be the offense or the tight end coach. That allows Steve Cooper to focus on coordinator duties as well. So how that all fares out. But having Dylan Wade back in the system for a second year, veteran player, hometown kid, I think that's a really good win for UCF. And you saw what he can do. And so, he'll hopefully still continue to be a weapon somewhere in the passing game.
To borrow a phrase that I've used before, I'm curious about the distribution of tasks now with Steve Cooper no longer on tight ends and being OC, right? Play calling. I'm kind of curious about that relationship with Scott Frost and his role, with the team.
Yeah, it's always weird when you have that coach who's the play caller, but there's a coordinator. UCF's had that for a long time, candidly, right? Back in the first Frost days. I mean, it's been, I think Hype will call his own plays. I think Frost call his own plays. We all know Gus call his own plays, and so it's interesting to see what that looks like. I assume it's someone who's just helping form and scheme, but I think Frost said in his presser that. This gives Steve Cooper a chance to be more involved in all of the offense. So what that means specifically, again, they're never going to tell us, but I imagine it gives him the opportunity maybe to check in on position groups, see how guys are doing, figure out some different schematical things for the Knights.
We're just a couple of seasons removed from Gus Malzahn wanting to wear every hat, right? Play caller, he wanted to be the GM, and now this, you got Trent Mossberger as GM. It's interesting how the system has evolved at UCF and across college football, that you have those distinctions in what coaches do and what they're involved in. It's impossible to have imagined that Gus Malzahn or anyone really could have handled all of those roles with the era that we're in college football.
It is interesting. I mean, if you think about, Gus, obviously he just walked away, from college coaching in general here. So, but you've heard that for a while. But yeah, it's a new game. It's a new era. I mean, even I think Scott Frost has admitted and said as much as his time away from leaving Nebraska, coming back to UCF. I think even for him, he learned a ton. There was definitely a lot of things that were new, and it does take a certain amount of coach to wear all those hats. It's funny we've attributed the old CEO role, right? With that coach needs to be that right now. And one of the best examples of it, Trace, is Kirk Cinetti. Like, he doesn't call the offense, he doesn't call the defense for Indiana. He just sort of, keeps the culture and ensures that, guys are doing the right things. And it's probably not something every coach wants to do. I'm sure it does take a little bit of a reality check when all of a sudden you're not needed to do the thing that you're probably really good at that got you that head coaching job. And oh, by the way, now you got to hire someone else to do that. I'm sure it's tough for coaches, and particularly if you're a little on the stubborn side, like one Arthur Gustavo Malzahn was, it's probably even harder to do.
When Eric Lopez and I were talking about rank the position groups on offense that you're most confident, least confident, where would you put tight end as a position group on the offense in terms of confidence level?
Yeah, to me, it's gonna boil down to who's the second pass catcher on this group, right? Like, I think we know Wadsworth was most likely and more likely will be a blocking back or blocking tight end rather. Brousseau, who comes in from Oklahoma State, has familiarity, with Cooper Bassett, probably more of that blocking tight end. I think he kind of replaces Max Drag. Brooks Hall is a true freshman. You don't know what you're going to get there, but you lose Kylan Fox. So is Caden Peening ready to step in and be that sort of second threat pass catch? Secondly, Dylan Wade, for as good a season he had last year, he had some injuries, Trace. He battled shoulder injuries. I think he missed a game in general. He came out of the Kansas game with an injury. So can he stay healthy? So if I'm ranking all the positions, they're probably right up there, Trace. They're probably 1 to 2, unfortunately, just because you know what you're getting in returning production. But it's also, I'm also playing the I'm gonna call it the importance card here, because you can hide a blocking tight end and we'll never know if he's good or not, right? So I think when you think about it from that standpoint, you feel good at least that you got Wade back. But who's gonna step in and be that second tight end passing threat? Is Caden Peening ready, or will Brooks Hall get a look as a true freshman?
I'm hitting you kind of cold with this, but give me your offensive line or offensive rankings, most confident to least confident. If you said they were up there 1-2, what would you have at 1 or 2, if not tight end?
Well, let me go reverse. I mean, 5 is offensive line. 4 is probably wide receiver. I'll go with 3 running back, 2 quarterback, 1 tight end.
So you're most confident about tight end, a little less confident about quarterback, even with the addition of Alonzo Barnett.
Yeah, we just don't know, right? We just don't know. These are players who have had success in other areas, obviously other schools. Barnett's one of them, also coming off injury, also coming in a step in competition. Didn't have his best season last year, statistically speaking. I think we've talked a lot about completion percentage being something that has to be monitored. So I'm not quite ready to say they're the top of the top.
Culture building is going to be critical again for Scott Frost. We saw some social media videos of the players bonding a little bit, so that's a good thing. They have this time as we get closer to spring camp to come together as a team.
Well, you're going to need that, right? You talk about culture. You talk about, Scott always talks about the brother to your left, the brother to your right. So it's cool to see, that forming together. And this is college football 2026, where you're going to have to find ways to integrate people together and make them a team in a short amount of time, and have them all marching towards a common goal when there's all this other noise around them. So I think sometimes you do those little things, and at some point in time, everyone does them at their workplace. I'm sure they have the team builds, and, they get you that box of stale Domino's pizza for recognition, right? Like, I think we all have something like that in our workplace, and I assume this is the equivalent of that for a football team.
Can it translate on the road for the Knights? The Knights 0-5 a season ago, as we all remember, on the road. A first-time trip to Oklahoma State this season. We want to get to know the Cowboys a little bit better. We welcome in Marshall Scott with pistols firing. UCF at Oklahoma State, Saturday, October 10th. Marshall, welcome into Sons of UCF Live.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Are the pistols firing? How do you feel about this program now? It's a whole makeover.
Yeah, I think there's at least the illusion of some pistols firing. So I imagine that it's been enough to at least, inject the fan base with some energy. It's been a rough couple of years, 0-9 back-to-back seasons in Big 12 play, just a calamity of a way for the Mike Gundy era to end. But there's a renewed energy in town with Eric Morris. Obviously, a lot of his guys that he's brought in over, starting with Drew Mestamaker, the quarterback, Caleb Hawkins, the running back, Wyatt Young, a really good receiver from North Texas. They got 2 other, 4-star transfer receivers, whatever that means. There's a renewed energy. But just with how the last 2 years have gone, I think everybody's maybe a little bit cautiously optimistic going into this.
Is one way you measure renewed energy clicks on your website?
Absolutely.
You do a great job of covering things. Is that just you can sense it, even with your writers, that there's enthusiasm, a fresh start here?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, clicks on the website certainly helps, but you can just sort of feel it around town. And I'm not sure it really, even with how bad it was, there were fewer people tuning into, the games, the product itself, but that fan base was still there, still very passionate, still very pissed off at, some of the things that were going on. I think things are starting to trend a little upwards, and I hope that continues for my sake going into the fall.
Marshall, what have you learned about your new head coach? I know he's been there obviously for a little bit now, completely different than Mike Gundy from what I can tell, but what have you learned so far about your new head coach?
Yeah, completely different from Mike Gundy in that he's, a little bit more reserved in some of his, talks, but it seems like he's a really good fit in Stillwater. He's from a small town out in West Texas. His wife's from a small town in Arkansas. That Stillwater is somehow perfectly in the middle of those 2 towns. On top, I'm from a small town in Oklahoma, and I remember coming up to Stillwater for college. And whenever I'm, walking to class with somebody who's from Dallas, they're like, "Man, Stillwater's a small town." I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. This place has 3 Walmarts. What are you talking about? So I get you guys being from, the Orlando area. You might think a little bit differently about that, but that's sort of the vibe that I got from talking with Eric Morris, is that like, okay, this is a small town guy. That's always a worry when somebody comes to Stillwater. It's like, are they going to like the environment of Stillwater? It's not for everybody. I think that's fair to say, but if it is for you, it really can be. So I think in a lot of ways that fit seems perfect. We haven't got to talk to him a ton. I think he's had two media availabilities at this point, but so far so good in terms of approval rating, I'd say.
Well, you mentioned obviously a bunch of players from North Texas follow him to Stillwater. Mestamaker, obviously the headliner there. Who else are you excited about that joined Oklahoma State in this portal class, even from North Texas or maybe from someplace else?
Yeah, I mentioned, some of the wide receivers that they've gotten. Justin Bowick was a big body dude from Illinois. He was actually Illinois' leader in touchdown catches this past year. Didn't have a ton of, just catches in general, but led the Illini in touchdown catches. And then they've got this receiver from Wake Forest named Chris Barnes, who's like 5'7", but blazing fast. That seems to be an archetype that works well in Eric Morris's system. They got Miles Coleman, who's also another receiver who's a similar stature. They brought him up from North Texas. So the receiver room has really been what's stood out so far. I like the offensive line, but it's sort of hard to tell because it's a bunch of new guys for essentially coming together. How is that actually going to mold? I think there's still maybe a little bit of question marks there. There are some guys on the back end that I like. Christian Bodner is a safety from Liberty. He sort of plays in the slot a little bit, sort of plays close to the line of scrimmage. I've really liked turning on his tape and watching it. Quentin Hammonds is a guy that they're bringing up from North Texas with them, another safety. They've added 81 new guys. There's 81 new people on this roster, so it's sort of been like taking in from a fire hose. I know a little bit about everybody, but maybe I don't know all the things about anybody at this point.
All right, Adam, bring up some trivia. Let's quiz him now about the 81. 81, you're getting into West Virginia territory with that number.
Yeah, it was crazy because Mike Gundy gets fired after the Tulsa game, which is in September, sometime early mid-September. And that was before they changed the rule where, whenever he got fired, a 30-day window opened up for people to leave. So there was an initial wave of guys exiting then. Then Eric Morris gets hired. He's got a couple of days to put together a high school signing class. Then the portal opens, and he's still at the beginning of that trying to juggle his job at North Texas because they were still in the playoff hunt a little bit. That wave happens. Then another wave of people leave whenever Eric Morris and his guys get in there and sort of evaluate things. It's just been like I said, it's been through a fire hose that players have been coming to Oklahoma State, but I think they've done all things considered pretty well. I think 247's got them as like the number 7 portal class in the country, stuff like that. So it was a good portal haul. It was a crazy couple of weeks, but I think Oklahoma State's better for it.
How do you assess the holdovers, those Cowboys that wanted to be a part of this new regime?
Yeah, it'll be interesting because there's not a ton of guys who played a ridiculous amount. There are guys that Cameron Epps, he's a safety. He had a really good 2023 season, had been sort of injured here and there the past couple of years. A guy like Carlevion Young, he's a linebacker. He was a true freshman last year. He's a 4-star kid that they're really excited about. And then you wonder, okay, all this, movement's happening. Is he going to be able to stick? They were able to keep him back. I think that was pretty big. They kept LaDainian Fields is probably the biggest get that they retained. He was a redshirt freshman safety this past year, had 2 interceptions, one of them which was a pick 6. I think the Pro Football Focus numbers, I think he allowed as many catches as he had interceptions. I think it was 2 and 2. I think he allowed 2 catches on 13 passes at him, and he had 2 interceptions. So that was really good. He's cousins with Rodney Fields, who left for Kansas State, the running back that Oklahoma State had. So whenever Rodney Fields to the portal, everybody's like, oh no, there goes Day as well. So I think they did a pretty good job of keeping him. But for the most part, a lot of these guys are relatively young, didn't play a ton, these last couple of years. There are some defensive linemen, Deshaun Brown, Jaleel Johnson, Malik Charles played last year. Deshaun Brown and Jaleel Johnson were both hurt at different points of last year, but had played before that. They're working on getting Iman Oates, who's a defensive tackle, an extra year of eligibility. He's one of those JUCO guys that, will he get an extra year of eligibility? I have no idea. It seems like everybody is these days, but so they're working on that. He's played a little bit, but yeah, for the most part, those holdover guys are essentially guys still trying to make a name for themselves.
Marshall, how would you evaluate the NIL/rev share health of Oklahoma State? Obviously, that's the biggest topic these days, right? That kind of dictates potentially how good your team can be. What kind of resources does Morris have to play with? How aggressive has Oklahoma State been, or how aggressive could they be from an NIL rev share standpoint?
Yeah, so a lot of it, I'd heard this going into even sort of going into Mike Gundy's firing, that there was money there that Mike Gundy wasn't necessarily tapping into. And then I'd heard that, some of these donors were fed up with Mike Gundy and they weren't going to give money as long as he was the coach. So then, Eric Morris gets hired and, you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, if that's going to happen, here's your shot. And, the reports are that Drew Mestamaker is making $3.5 million to be Oklahoma State's quarterback this year. If he comes back next year, he's making $4 million. So it does seem like they've tapped into that sort of money. I haven't really heard much aside from Mestamaker's, high end numbers, but it does sort of seem like for the first time in a while or the first time really since the NIL era has actually started, that Oklahoma State's actually playing this game. I think they started to dip their toes in it last year whenever, that 2024 season went so bad for them. They go 3-9. I think Mike Gundy was interested in the portal at that point to say, okay, what do we need to do here? And, at that point, it's just sort of too late. Everybody else had sort of adjusted to the portal era and knew what they were looking for. And I'm just not sure that Oklahoma State, in putting its roster together with spending some money last year, necessarily, obviously, it didn't go as well as they maybe had hoped. So it seems like that money is there now. How long does that last? I don't know. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not sure what these millionaires think whenever results happen and people are winning and losing. So, but for the meantime, it looks like that money's there, and Drew Mestemaker's making quite a bit of it.
Well, yeah. How excited is this fan base about Drew Mestemaker kind of being the quarterback? He was, by any accounts, first, second, third, top three, whatever quarterback in the portal. Obviously, now it comes to your school. How excited are the fans about Mestemaker taking over this offense?
Yeah, they're super excited. It seems like he's at least like the most talented quarterback Oklahoma State's had since Mason Rudolph, which was 2014 to 17. I don't know if you guys know his story too much, but he's from a sort of a powerhouse school down in Texas. Did not play varsity quarterback in high school. They had a kid that was either going to Baylor or going to play baseball at Baylor or something like that. That kid was a starting quarterback. Drew Mestemaker played safety. His senior year, played safety and punted. Did not start a varsity game. Didn't start a varsity game his entire high school career. After that, he's working with a quarterback coach. That quarterback coach calls Eric Morris and is like, "Hey, I've got a guy for you." And Eric Morris says, "All right, send me his film." And they're like, "Well, that's the thing. He doesn't actually, have any film." So Eric Morris went out and watched him throw one day. He ends up walking on at North Texas. By the end of North Texas's season, as his true freshman year, he's starting in North Texas bowl game. Then last year's his redshirt freshman season, leads the country in passing, and boom, now he's making $3.5 million. So really quick come up for him. But this is sort of what Eric Morris does. He pushed really hard for Texas Tech, giving Baker Mayfield a walk-on spot whenever they weren't so sure if they were full or not. He helped recruit Patrick Mahomes, who wasn't that big of a recruit. He was Cam Ward's coach at Incarnate Word before he goes to Washington State and then Miami, and then is the number one overall pick. So he's got a quarterback whisperer moniker does Eric Morris, and it seems like Drew Mestemaker, given he led the country in passing last year, sort of the next in line with that.
What's the pulse of the fan base with all of these North Texas guys coming? Do they believe in them and that brand name? It's not what they're accustomed to in terms of acquisition of players to a place like Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I think at first people, there was a segment of the fan base that was a little worried. That was like, okay, are we just going to be, North Texas next year? Are we going to be more North Texas? Is that how this is going to work out? But then as it sort of started coming, 81 new guys, 105 guys on the roster. There are 21 from North Texas. A couple of those guys went elsewhere and then have rejoined the staff. The Tyler Mercer, who I think is going to start at center for them, he's with North Texas in 2024, goes to Kansas last year, and then has now transferred to there. So they got a couple of guys like that, but there's like 21 guys of 105. I don't really think it's that big a deal. Honestly, if anything, I think that's probably beneficial that, hey, these guys know what these coaches are talking about and stuff like that. And then I think a lot of fans started to come around to the fact that was like, well, if North Texas and Oklahoma State were on the field with each other last year, North Texas is winning that game handily. So no matter which way you look at it, I think this is a step forward. And I think they got the right guys. They got, Drew Mestemaker, will he adjust as quickly to the Big 12 as he maybe did the American? I don't know. But, he was a redshirt freshman and led the country in passing last year. So that's obviously going to be a step up for him, but I think he's more than capable. Caleb Hawkins, the running back, he was a true freshman. He had one Division I offer. It was from North Texas. He's actually from Oklahoma. It was to North Texas. He goes there, and as a true freshman, leads the country in rushing touchdowns. So, the staff obviously has got a knack for spotting talent. And I think the more and more that the portal window sort of developed, and then they are grabbing these guys, the Chris Barneses and the Justin Bowiks of the world. I think the fan base was like, okay, it's not just North Texas happening again, but even if it was, that's maybe not necessarily a bad thing.
Considering how Rich Rodriguez did at West Virginia last season and Scott Frost here at UCF, what is your sense of the expectations of the fan base here with Coach Morris in his first year?
Yeah, and I think this goes to credit Mike Gundy. The expectation from this fan base is if you're not going to a bowl game, it was a horrible year. And so that was, the last 2 years that Oklahoma State has have been horrible years. So I think that's the floor in terms of expectations that the fan base wants to see. But then there is a pretty vocal, crowd that is really supporting this group. Obviously, you've you've got Mestamaker, you've got these receivers. Sort of who knows what the trenches are going to look like. I think that's a point where, is Oklahoma State a good team or is Oklahoma State a really good team? I think that's going to sort of be determined by the trenches. But yeah, I think the expectation is that this team, better make a bowl game, because that's what the expectation in Oklahoma State has become because of Mike Gundy. So yeah, he deserves credit in that, and in some ways that was the reason of his downfall.
Is men's basketball going to make the NCAA tournament?
Man, it doesn't. If you would have asked me a couple of days ago, I might have said yes.
And a couple days from now, you may change your mind again. It's the Big 12.
Yeah, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of the Big 12 conference. I don't know. They were in Arizona the past week. They played Arizona on Saturday. Got absolutely annihilated. This is back whenever they were still unbeaten. Just absolutely clobbered Oklahoma State. Then they go to Arizona State on Tuesday. Is a game they got out rebounded by a ton. They gave up, I think, 26 second chance points and then 24 points off turnovers. They basically spotted Arizona State 50 points.
You can't do that against any team.
You can't do that in Big 12. That's for sure. So it's been rough. The offense is really good. If I believe the stat is if they score 81 or more points, they're like 17-0 under Steve Lutz or something like that. But then there are days where they just don't play any defense whatsoever and think the game is just going to come to them, and it obviously has not at certain occasions. So I think there's still a shot. I think they've still got 3 quad 1 games ahead of them. So they do have an opportunity. But I've just watched so much Oklahoma State basketball over the last 10 years that we'll just say that I'm not necessarily the most confident that they're going to be able to turn this up. I do think the program is headed in a better direction. This is Steve Lutz's second year. They've got a really good recruiting class coming in. They've seemed to tap into some NIL resources as well. So I think the program's headed in the right direction. Whether this year is the year or not that they get back to the tournament, I'm not so sure.
Besides the couple of Walmarts, what are the must-sees and do's in Stillwater when UCF fans travel out there in the fall? Yeah,
whenever UCF first joined the conference, I joined you guys and you asked me about this, and I was like, I don't really know. And then we pulled up some things on Google, and I think the Lost Creek Safari was one that is since closed, which is not ideal.
Yeah. All right, hold on, I got just my list.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. So not exactly ideal. I don't know. You come to Stillwater to go to Oklahoma State sporting events. That's sort of how I see it. Go to the game, go to Eskimo Joe's. Eskimo Joe's, I think from the locals, I don't think it's overrated, but I think some of the locals probably like, you should go to Eskimo Joe's. If it's going to be your one trip to Stillwater, you should do it. But it's sort of, I imagine, like Disney for Orlando. You're like, oh, I guess you got to go to Disney. So Eskimo Joe's is our Disney World, I think is a weird way of what I just said. But there's not a ton outside of that. There's things to do in Tulsa. There's things to do in Oklahoma City, both an hour away. I imagine a lot of people would fly into those. You can fly into Stillwater, but it's through Dallas. You got to fly American. I'd imagine if you're looking for things to do outside of going to the sporting events, maybe do those closer to your hotel in either Tulsa or Oklahoma City.
Tell us more about your website.
Yeah, pistolsfiringblog.com. We cover all things Oklahoma State sports. It's a triple season for us right now. We're doing men's and women's basketball, and then wrestling is massive here. The wrestling team has won more national titles than any team in any sport in the NCAA history. So that's huge here. That's what really we're hammering down right now. Softball and baseball getting going. Yeah, we're everywhere. There's we've got 2 podcasts. We've got 3 writers who contribute regularly. We've got daily bullets from a guy who writes that every day. So we're all over Oklahoma State.
Marshall Scott, Pistols Firing. We thank you for being with us on Sons of UCF Live.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
All right, good seeing you, Adam. $3.5 to $4 million for a quarterback. It still seems like this is money that is not happening here at UCF. Alonzo Barnett's going to make a nice paycheck, but I don't think it's in that range.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I mean, I think UCF again is trying to moneyball this to an extent, right? And they had a valuation of guys, and some schools are going to go all in. I guess it'll be very fascinating in a couple of years to kind of figure out who had the right trajectory. Do you go after the big name guy with the big dollars? Do you build your team through repetition and through experience, no matter the level? It'll be interesting to see how that bears out. Right now, I think paying the stars seems to be the smart thing to do, but we'll see how this bears out for a UCF team and a Oklahoma State, a West Virginia, some of these teams that have had massive total rebuilds. We'll see how that kind of shakes out in a couple of seasons.
In the hiring of Eric Morris, it's interesting to bring 21 players, nearly the entire coaching staff, right? That is not something that UCF benefited from or West Virginia benefited from in their coaching transitions a year ago.
Well, West Virginia had the option, at least with Jack State, right, where Rich Rod was. Frost had no options, right? Even the staff he brought in, a lot of them, were in odd places too. So it's an interesting strategy. Again, can all of those guys jump up a level in competition, right? Can all of them come from the American Conference where they're playing, that schedule to a Big 12 schedule in the Big 12 conference? Do they have the depth? Do they have everything that you need to compete? I think that's the risk you take when you take that many kids from that level of experience. How does that work out? Again, it'll be fascinating to see these case studies in a couple seasons, how all the teams fared.
Big fan of Oklahoma State basketball now, right? It helps UCF because that was a road loss for the Knights. They're now on a 2-game losing streak. The last 2 have not looked good. Nick Williams has our men's basketball minute.
It's hard to put a positive spin on UCF's recent road trip. After being dominated by Houston and then traveling to Cincinnati where the Knights lost by 20, head coach Johnny Dawkins and players know that they did not give their all this past week.
Well, I didn't think we got off to particularly good starts on this road trip. I didn't think that was good, and I didn't think we held our composure as well as we had been holding our composure throughout most of the season as well. So kind of reverted back to some earlier things we did earlier in the season.
Cincinnati, I just felt like we win big games, and I think we come out and feel like comfortable, and you can't come out like that, and I just feel like we didn't have that care that we needed to.
In Big 12 play, the Knights are now 2-4 on the road. Valentine's Day, they'll be back at home looking to not break any fans' hearts at 6 p.m. against West Virginia. I'm Nick Williams. This has been your Sons of UCF Men's Basketball Minute.
Let's bring in the president of the Nick Williams fan club. He is ESPN Plus analyst Ben Hazel, who the note says to me, already shaking his head in the green room. And Nick, you're in Nick's head, by the way. He smiles throughout the report, hoping to curry favor with Ben Hazel.
Nope, he's not there yet. We got a long way to go. I know we're 2-4 on the road, but we're 4-1 at home. Come on now. We always got to bring up both sides of this thing, Nick. Give us some credit.
Well, that's why we transitioned from Nick to you.
Yeah, we got to keep it in perspective. People freaking out and all that. I get it. Bad little stint. Every single team in the conference has had them. We just need to take care of home court, and we will get what we want. Stay focused on the right prize, getting to the tournament.
Let's talk about these last 2. Houston, a very physical team, and they benefit from the calls at home. They are 50-1, Ben, in their last 51 home games. That is a tough place to win a game, and the Knights were close there for a while, but Houston went on that run, and it was something Coach Dawkins talked about. Don't let them go on those runs, respond, and UCF could not respond.
Yeah, you're seeing why they're top 5 in the country, right? They hack you, they push you, they're extremely physical. One of the things that, I hate giving Houston credit just because when I was on staff, they just did a whole bunch of stuff that I just made me really want to beat them. But
well, that requires follow-up, Ben.
Yeah, I wasn't playing, so I was the wrong guy to be motivated. But with Houston, the thing that's pretty marvelous, or just kind of is astounding with them, is that you talk a lot, how do you recreate referees reffing games like that by being physical the entire game, right? Refs are like, oh, this is Houston. They're going to put their hands on you. You just can't call everything because we are all human beings. We have to go home at the end of this at some point. So the one thing with Houston, though, the reason why they're able to do it is that 1 through 15, every single person that comes in the game, whether it's a walk-on, whether it's a guy that plays 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, they are all putting their hands on you. They're all playing extremely hard. So that is why they're able to really execute the way they are. When you talk about the physicality in every single game, the consistency, you can't take anything from them on that end.
The most physical that I feel UCF has played was in that victory over Texas Tech. That's the game that Coach Dawkins said was the first 40-minute game of the season. How do you assess what you see from the Knights from a physicality standpoint?
They're able to meet the bell with some of the more physical teams that we see in the conference. But, you could tell, that's just not our bread and butter, right? We wouldn't love to have every single game be a football match. But what we're getting in the Big 12 is what we'll see in the NCAA tournament. Matchups. It's different matchups. That's why you just can't freak out on each one of these games. Like every single matchup, every single game is very independent of all the others. It's hard to see that because of how the games are scheduled.
Ben, the biggest reason UCF lost at Cincinnati was blank.
We just couldn't get in sync offensively just as a group, right? Like Cincinnati's no juggernaut. Of course, we gave up a ton of threes, let them get back on track. But that's why I say every game is independent of the others. Cincinnati's not a three-point shooting team, but they felt really good that day. They're at home and just got warm, right? And that's not what they do normally, as we've seen. But they got it together today. We didn't guard the three-point line very well, and we just could not figure it out offensively. And that's, one of the tough challenges that you have with our schedule, right? You play at Houston. You definitely were not in sync offensively. It's not like you get to go home and get some shots up to really settle yourself down. You're right back on the road in an unfamiliar place, in an unfamiliar gym, in a highly contested game. So that's how you can end up losing by 20. I don't think that they lack so much in care. It was just more of, hey, we couldn't make a shot. Guys were really out of sync. But now that we're back at home, let's regroup and get back to playing basketball the way that we know how.
Last couple of games, Ben, Themis folks struggled a little bit. Is that part the way the defenses were playing him in Houston, Cincinnati? Is he just maybe hitting a wall? What are you seeing in terms of Themis folks these last couple of games?
I can't call it a wall, right? I wouldn't call it a wall, but definitely the scouting report. All right. So they're starting to throw some different looks at him. It's like, hey, we can't just keep letting this guy beat us, scoring 30 and 10s, doing the things that he's been doing. He's been winning games doing it. So teams are adjusting, right? Like they're not just going to let you keep doing that to beat them. So Themis, again, this bye week, I think will be huge for stuff like that. Like guys getting in the gym, being able to just get shots up kind of under a really relaxed, time period because nothing's really coming up. You can rest, watch film, kind of regroup and get that battery back in your back for the last, home stretch because winning at home is going to be a big part of it.
You talked about that maybe from the players' perspective, from a coaching staff's perspective. What do they want to do this week that prepares them for this final stretch of 7 games?
Guard the three-point line. That's the number one thing. Like these teams that we're currently ahead of, right? When you talk about the bracket and basically all our games coming up besides BYU, we're going to have to guard the three-point line, right? Like the teams, we saw it against Cincinnati. If Cincinnati doesn't get high from the three-point line, the game would be completely different. So that's going to be our number one thing down the stretch is this making sure teams don't get hot on us, on the nights that we come to town or when they're coming down here and just staying calm, right? Like as the season gets a little bit deeper, you start to feel it as a team, just the pressure, the importance, just still being able to stay loose, taking care of what they need to take care of. And I think the chips will fall where they may.
Earlier, you were talking about the reputation Houston has earned for its physical style of play. What's your sense of UCF's reputation amongst referees?
I don't know if we have one as far as the referees.
Is that part of the problem sometimes that
no,
maybe
I wouldn't
UCF doesn't get a benefit of the
problem.
doubt?
A little bit, right? Like as a fan, yes. But, it's not something that you could really, I would say is consistent enough to point to. There is a little bit of familiarity over time of being in any given conference, stuff like that. So I think we are getting known as a gritty team, like a team that will fight, team that is going to compete. But I don't think it's gained us any favor. So, until that happens, yeah.
Ben, in that clip we played where Nick was making you upset, Devin Cambridge was featured. He's kind of been up and down for the Knights this season. What does he need to do to sort of get back on track? Because I feel like he was a big part of sort of the winning ways early on, and as his play has kind of dropped off a little bit, I feel like you miss him in that second unit. You miss him kind of being that when they go small, he's kind of like that stretch 5 for them. What do you need to see out of Devin Cambridge the last couple games here this season?
Well, first off, Devin Cambridge was never looked at coming into the conference as the guy that we were looking at for just a whole bunch of consistent buckets and things like that. I think he has been consistent in his effort and what he's trying to do, but it's matchups, right? Like he's coming in the game. We got Arizona. We got some teams with a lot of big. Cincinnati. He's going against Mustafa a lot. Like the matchups haven't been the greatest for him specifically, but I think once the team gets in sync a little bit more, just as a unit, some of those 3-point shots that he's taking will start to fall. He'll be able to get a little bit more cleaner offensive rebounds, things like that, because I think that's been part of the problem, right? The shot selection and the things that we're asking him to do is because we are so offensively out of sync. If we were in sync, we wouldn't ask for Devin to play one-on-one at the top of the key, right? We wouldn't ask for him to make a bunch of trail threes in transition to help us get back into the game. He's a guy that'll make one when the game, I think late, he'll get one of those where he's wide open and he's going to knock it down. I think that's more of when we're saying we're offensively in flow versus, what we've seen in the past. So I don't even want to necessarily fault him per se. I think it's kind of a culmination of the team, which trickled down to, him not necessarily looking as good as he can.
This week, the Big 12 announced a new court for the tournament, Ben. It's an ABS glass court. It's actually in Orlando. I don't know if you've seen it or if you have a chance to be there yet, but is this a big deal from a player standpoint? Like, is there concerns about safety? Is there concerns about, I think Devin Cambridge was quoted as saying, like, maybe the ball bounces a little bit differently off the court there. Any concerns with a conference doing something like this in a tournament like that?
Well, I wouldn't say concerned, but it is something that you're going to be looking out for as soon as you get to the arena, right? Because with the wooden floors, there's a certain level of give, right? When you're falling, when you're stepping. But the thing is, as a basketball player, I don't know about the kids today, but you played on a lot of different surfaces. I did growing up, right? So you play on your gravel, you play on your tile floor, middle school floors, you're all different types, concrete. So with that being said, like, I don't think it's necessarily a concern. You're probably getting a little more concern from a guy like Devin Cambridge just because he has had some injury issues. So if somebody does get hurt, I know that is the first thing they are going to bring up. So, the Big 12 definitely is taking a risk there. But I'm sure with technology today, they've probably taken into account some of that stuff. So we'll see. I'm actually, as a fan, really interested. Like, what is it going to look like? Are they going to make the court glow while guys are running around? Or is it just going to be a cool intro? Who knows?
All right, Saturday, Tuesday this week, West Virginia, TCU. What stands out to you about the matchups? What do you think about UCF and these two teams?
These are the games. These are the ones. This is the ones that I've been talking about, right? Like, where we really, really need to separate ourselves from these teams that have these long shot hopes of making it to the tournament, right? They basically have hopes of being in our position. Right now in the Big 12, there is a separation between the 7 teams that Joe Lunardi has in the tournament and the rest. Mm-hmm. And that cutoff is us, right? That cutoff is us in West Virginia and Oklahoma State and your TCU's the next closest. So now they're not do or die, but these are games. If we can get to 20 wins on this season, these are the games that become that much more important.
Let me ask you a question we got in the mailbag for Matt. UCF Knights win. If money wasn't an object and we were able to keep Sellers, Hall, and Cham, place them on this year's team, who's your starting 5?
Sellers, Hall, and Cham. None of them? No, I'm kidding. Mustafa for sure. I would pick Mustafa out of both of those guys. I don't know if you guys been following. Providence has been doing that great. Auburn has been doing okay. I mean, Keyshawn could definitely score, but I know Todd Pettiford and crew aren't necessarily like, oh man, getting Keyshawn was so helpful for me. So, neither of them are doing that great. Not gonna go down that road, but might have should have stayed. Who knows?
Ben, we got a good question from Riley Kennedy on the screen here. Can you expand on how teams are playing folks and how we should counter that?
Yeah, they're blitzing it. So they're basically countering his size with bringing a pressure to him whenever we have a screen come towards him. So that's why you're seeing Devin Cambridge getting put in these weird situations where he's like, I'm catching it in the mid post, top of the key, because that is what is open. But now they're making him be a decision maker, similar to what people say is really easy for Draymond Green to do in the NBA, right? He set screens, 2 guys go to Steph, then they flip it back, and he's just in a weird situation. So I think guys understanding that and knowing what they're going to do or try to do prior to that action, because it's not something that really should surprise them anymore. Teams weren't doing it a lot early on in the conference, but that's an adjustment that the conference is making. And guys are just blitzing Themis, so it's taking him out of rhythm, and it's making other guys have to make decisions. So with that being said, guys just got to be prepared, right? Like just really know what to do when you catch that ball, know where they want to look. It doesn't mean you have to shoot it. Doesn't mean you have to panic. You could still run the offense. Just now the timing of it is just a little bit different.
West Virginia, TCU ahead. What will Ben Hazel say about Nick Williams on next week's show? Ben, thanks for being with us on Sons Live.
Thanks for having me, fellas. Go Knights.
All right, charge on, Ben.
Have Nick and Ben ever met? We got to get those two.
I'm not sure. We maybe put.
I need
Q&A, a little one-on-one between Nick and Ben.
Ben, are you going to the game Saturday, Ben? Are you going to be there? So Ben will be there. He says. I need you, Trey. I need you to get a picture. It's Valentine's Day. I need Nick and Ben together with a nice, lovely photo.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thanks, Ben. Good analysis. These are important games, though. I don't want to make them must win, but you want to shake off this 2-game losing streak. And he said it best. They're at home. They only lost, right, was Arizona, and they played Arizona tough. And we know what Arizona's like. So no underestimating West Virginia or TCU, but UCF has had challenges on the road, and so are these teams, right? Nobody's world beaters on the road except, in Arizona maybe, but opportunity here to get a couple more wins.
Ben's dead right. Hold serve at home, right? Like hold serve at home, win these 2 at home, and then worry about the road games at that point. But if you hold serve at home, you're going to put yourself in a position, you'll be at that 9-10 win mark, and then you're a tournament team. And then at that point, throw the balls up and see what happens, right? So hold serve at home, worry about the road games when they come down the road, but you can't stub your toe in either of these 2 upcoming games, particularly TCU, because again, they're starting to flirt with that Joe Lunardi line. They're starting to get a team that people are going, oh, hey, TCU, right? So if you can go out and handily beat TCU, you further cement what this team is about. And, again, if you want to say they're on the same level of playing, whatever, I don't know. But at that point, you clearly establish that UCF is a better team than TCU. I think that's what you want to do.
We weave into this show other shows mentions of things that we do, but do we ask people, have you subscribed to the 365 Sports newsletter at 365sports.video? You have, I have, you contribute to it. What's the article this week, Adam?
Sounds like we just did ask them this week. Listen, Felix, our intern, doing a great job for us, put together a roundtable article that all of us, myself, you, Christian Simmons, Andrew Cherico, a bunch of other people contributed to, just some burning questions on UCF football. So that's at 365sports.video is where you can find that. Where else would you get your written articles but 365sports.video? Make sure you go sign up. Also, by the way, if we should have done this, shame on me. We didn't appropriately introduce Ben when he got onto the show. Because Ben's now an author. I don't know if you know this. Ben's now writing columns. I mean, he's branching out his media career as well, too. So check out Ben.
So you want me to plug 30 seconds into the rundown to introduce all of the titles that Ben has?
Perhaps.
President of the Nick Williams fan club.
Let's have Nick come on and read out all of Ben's credentials. That may be the best way to do this. But
Nick, we're going to cut a little open that we can roll right before Ben.
For Nights 247, Ben's writing an article, does a great job as always. So check out there as well. But also check out 365sports.video.
We ask you also give a subscription to the Suns YouTube channel. In an ideal world, we drop things throughout the week, but sometimes schedules collide and you get a double 1-2 punch of the Pegasus podcast and Around the Kingdom. And that was the case Thursday as they both dropped about the same time. So you have things to catch up on. Let's give you a preview.
After that's BYU. So, yeah, you're feeling a lot better if you win these next 2 before you take on a good BYU team that is still, because the Big 12 is crazy and because of what UCF's done so far, BYU's still behind UCF in the conference standings, which is something I didn't think I would say at any point, maybe ever.
Oh, fair. But again, to retrospect this and act like that wasn't really my choice to pick, baloney, man. You gonna where's the expert in the book where he allegedly talked to Scott Frost in a hotel in Philadelphia the night before UCF played Temple? This guy's a jackass and an ass clown, Trace, and he should be just an unbelievable imbecile. I just cannot believe this nonsense gets. And we're publishing this. What, are we desperate for publishing books like this? Get out of here! I can't believe you brought this of all. Now I was in a great mood, and now you bring me up to this.
So 2 observations. Note to
Good man.
self was you can't record too late in the night with Eric Lopez. It gets a little salty.
It gets salty.
And Christian, I listened on my drive today to the audio version, but in the video version, he appears to be comfortably on a couch looking directly into the sun.
He was. Yeah, first off, Eric Lopez, if you did not hear Around the Kingdom, Eric Lopez, and by the way, Around the Kingdom Overtime releases Friday morning, where he continued that diatribe. Although cleaner in the Around the Kingdom Overtime segment.
I like how he said, because it's a family show. Like the other one isn't. Like we've got an adult label on Around the Kingdom.
It happens. But are we going to talk about this book thing? Because that's a wild turn.
Well, we get a question. Don't we get a question?
Okay. All right. We'll get to it. Okay.
Yeah, we get a question. We can talk
You're in
about
charge.
it a little bit more there. UCF baseball season underway on Friday. Welcome in Siena. That's 6 o'clock, 1 o'clock on Saturday, 1 o'clock on Sunday. Nights projected 10 out of 14. We've got a lot of coverage on this one, too. We've got Media Day, recap preview show with Andrew Gregg and Nick Williams. It's so great having those guys year over year. We're going to have Felix Rodriguez writing as well and photography, and we've got baseball covered from all angles. So a lot of great coverage from baseball. Head coach Rich Wallace now for Media Day on looking forward to a new season.
It's been an exciting group to work with, a fun group. They had a really productive and focused fall, and seem to be headed in the right direction at this point in the early spring, which isn't easy to do when you get 31 new players and 5 new staff. But when you add guys like Shane Gerke and Jack Ziska and Colin Smith, guys that have coached, played, experienced college baseball at the elite levels, it makes it a lot easier. Really excited to kind of watch this group attack this season.
31 new players. That's a lot of new players on a baseball roster. And this week we debuted a new show on the Suns YouTube channel. Have we asked you yet? Subscribe to Suns YouTube. Rounding the Bases with Nick Williams and Michael Theed in his big on-camera moment for us. So they do a good job breaking down the nights. And as the season moves along, we hope this will be a weekly show, a deeper dive and analysis into UCF baseball.
Come for the animation. Stay for the breakdowns. Again, I tell you every week, nobody knows more baseball than Michael Theed.
Nobody knows.
So if you want to get yourself educated, and again, 31 new players, opening weekend, you want to get caught up quickly on what's happening, hit play in that video and revel in the animation.
I'm trying to get your sarcasm here. Are you critical of the Nick Williams produced animation?
No, it's like a surprise right in the middle there. Like you don't see it coming, but all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what am I watching here? And you find joy, glee just will wash over your face when you see it.
Softball, meantime, 6-1. They beat Missouri in a midweek game. Only blemish to a top 20 ranked Duke. They're now out in Clearwater for the Shriners Children's Clearwater Invitational. This is a big field. They've got Northwestern, number 17, Georgia, number 10, LSU, number 8, Nebraska, and North Carolina State. And Cindy Ball Malone, head coach Cindy Ball Malone, says this is a very competitive tournament they're going to be in this weekend in Clearwater.
It's huge. Clearwater is definitely, it's going to feel like head above water. Just the opponents, it's definitely like a postseason tournament in your second week when you're still trying to figure your team out. So to have these wins and the amount of experience we've had so far against some really quality teams is very, very important.
We'll have a wrap-up of the Missouri game from one of our triple threat softball reporters, Davita Lane, as well, Kathleen Moore and Samantha Sambutron, teaming up to cover softball. We'll have Davita's report up on Suns YouTube.
Did we agree on that name? Are we triple threat? Or do we agree on that? Did we vote on that?
No.
I feel like I should be consulted if we're going to start giving nicknames, you know?
Is the nickname consultation more or less important than the animation used in the story?
Don't miss that animation, okay? Don't miss that animation. You've been warned, everybody. You've been warned.
All right, because baseball and softball are underway. Just one note from around the kingdom of UCF sports. Women's basketball falls to 2-11 in the Big 12. I thought this was a misprint. I had to double check. They lose 106-56
Adam, right where we want
20 West Virginia. That's a 50-point That's a 50-point loss.
I had him right where we wanted him to. We were right there and just let that one slip away.
That was at number 20, West Virginia. They return home Sunday. Number 12, Baylor, then Kansas State on Wednesday. That's a tough one. We open now the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF Mailbag.
So it's a mailbag. So what?
So what? Do you know whose mailbag that is?
It's that time again. Time to open the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF mailbag.
It means a lot. Sons of UCF, man, listen, they gave me a great campaign. Sons of UCF, baby.
Hi, fellas.
Every time.
Always laugh at that. Michael previously mentioned Emptiness 4 on the socials. Baseball tomorrow at this time. The show airs. Be at John Juliano Park, y'all. He does ask us a question as well. All things being equal, how would you split up rev share among the football roster going by position group? O-line, D-line, heavily invest. That's where I would go. Heavily invest. I'm not going to break it down every single position group. I think you got to get O-line and D-line right, and quarterback as well.
Yeah, I think again you got to take care of the lines. I think quarterback's the other spot where you've got to find a way to take care of that too. And then I think you need at least one explosive player on offense, running back, receiver. I think you need one go-to player that you can count on offensively too. So I go lines, quarterback, and one explosive player.
It'll only be UCF in 2030 when UCF plays FIU. By the way, that 2030, we're on the tip side of that now, right? As we're in 2026, we're getting closer to 2030. Which side of the football field will Scott Carr, former UCF athletics director personnel, be on? Well, is he a potential AD at a place like UCF?
It's a great question, Trace. I mean, obviously, he was famously the guy that got tagged in every Twitter question that ever came Terry Mahadger's way.
Hot dogs in the cabana.
Hot dogs in the cabana. UCF Mike was all over that one. It's a great question. He's doing a great job down there at FAU. So hopefully that works out for him.
Wait, is he at FAU or FIU?
I'm sorry. What did I say? I meant FIU. Sorry.
You said FAU. Is he?
I meant FI. I meant FI. Sorry.
FIU. Yeah.
Yes.
Mary Ashbaugh 6. Hi, Mary. Now, what are your thoughts and concerns with men's basketball? I still think they're well positioned over these next 7 games to find themselves in the NCAA tournament. I think it's something you and Eric Lopez talked about. Maybe it was on Around the Kingdom Overtime. If opponents found a solution, bottle up Themis Fulks, does that derail the Knights? We're going to see if he bounces out of the last couple of games of struggle here against West Virginia and TCU.
Yeah, hold on to the rope at this point, right? The team has played really well. They've obviously established some identity there. Can you hold on the rope? Again, hold serve at home, win those games, worry about the road games when you can. 6 conference wins right now? We've talked about 9. You feel good about going, so that means there's 3 of the next 7, right? So really just got to go about 500 here. I mean, it doesn't seem all that complicated, but the Big 12 conference is a monster when it comes to basketball.
Robert, 2 letters, 2 words. He starts off with Happy New Year, Adam, which seems inappropriate.
Blocked. Yeah.
How many games does UCF have to win in the last 7 to ensure a tournament invite? Minimum 3.
Yes.
Or you're forcing yourself into a situation where you've got to win tournament games in the conference tournament. Also, is it top 6 they get a bye? Or is it do you know what the bye situation is? Could they be in a position to get a bye?
I was talking about that. Michael Thied was giving us this rundown when we were at the baseball fan fest. I want to say he said top 8.
So they're in position for a bye here.
Maybe he could get in the chat or somebody. It's 6 to 8, I believe, is the number. But yes, you'd love a bye. Heck, you'd love a double bye, but that's probably unlikely at this point. But you'd like maybe a bye to get yourself into that second round.
How do you answer at UCF Knights wins question about Sellers, Hall, and Chom? I'd want Chom back for sure.
Yeah, I think Chom too. I mean, I think look, if you're putting him on this year's team, there's only one basketball to go around, right? Keyshawn Hall sucks the air out of the ball. I think Riley Kugel would want the ball. So I think Hall may not be the right fit for this squad.
Well, you never would have Riley Kugel, right? If you had
fair, I guess. Am I subtracting players then if I have to take a player, right? So I don't know. I think Chom rather with the lack of size that UCF has in the interior, I think he would be a huge vital part of this team if he decided he wanted to be here and not at Cincinnati with Chili.
Chili. Have you ever tried that?
I have not.
No.
I don't ever plan to.
Which part of it are you resisting? Is it the cheese on top of the
all the above? All the above.
There's a cinnamon to that base of the chili that seems I've had it.
All of the above. And then we're doing this now. Happy New Year to Matt J. Thanks for having by, Matt. We're doing this. I love it. No, I'm not a chili guy to begin with. And so when you add it on like spaghetti noodles and what looks like, I don't even know where that cheese came from. It's not what I'm into.
Along these lines, and this is really more appropriate for what's in the box, but let me just go down this line. Stew, where are you at on stew since you're not so fond of chili?
No, I mean, I've never really had a hankering for a hearty stew in my life.
But I enjoyed just the way you said it.
I don't know. I mean, there may be a scenario in life where I go, you know what could really hit the spot right now is a nice beefy stew. Haven't been there yet though. So stay tuned.
Where are we at on soup?
Soup fan. I'm a soup fan.
And top 3 soups?
Chicken noodle.
Traditional chicken noodle. Homemade? Are there cans of soup in your pantry?
Ooh, unlikely that there are cans of soup in my pantry.
That's got to be a lot of sodium in those cans of soup.
It really does. Like, there's like a froth on top of those things that I don't even know if that's legal.
Shake it up.
There's extra MSG in there, as Kramer would say. I don't know what's happening in that.
Where you at a French onion soup? I'm jumping around here.
Where am I on a French onion soup? You can come and go. I don't know. I don't have
it. Chicken noodle one.
Yeah. I liked a good broccoli cheddar back in the day. Broccoli cheddar soup. I feel like it's another version of chicken. I like chicken and rice, like a chicken rice.
Brothy, very brothy or thicker. So I'm trying to understand the aversion to chili.
I'm not sure why you're doing any of this, frankly. I got into bone broth recently too, which is also very healthy for you. Not as tasty, of course, but maybe try some bone broth.
Bone broth. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah.
Black Gold _Ed. Should UCF close the women's basketball prep? Did I mention they lost by 50?
You did. That did come up.
And Ed says, should it be replaced with women's gymnastics? I think there's a healthy conversation to be had about women's basketball, the amount of money being spent on the program and the lack of success. And it's not just a current situation, but really the history of the program at UCF. Women's gymnastics would not be the first thing I'd want to add, though. I still think I'd rather see a beach volleyball as the first addition as a women's sport.
Yeah, Matt Dolan beat you to the punch in the chat there. If they decide to go down that road, and again, I'm sure it would not be an easy decision to make, but I do think there are some sports that you could potentially. Lacrosse is really taking over as a sport. I think FSU just branched into women's lacrosse, so I do think there are options out there if for some reason UCF decided women's basketball wasn't the lane for them.
Knights 24/7 on Blue Sky. So far this year, 3 bowl games are not returning. That'd be LA, Detroit, and Bahamas. What do you think of this trend? Do you think more bowls will fold? ESPN has a vested interest. They want to own them all and they want to air them all during December. But the market will settle this, right?
We can all agree, right? I mean, there were probably too many bowls to begin with. So lopping off maybe 10% of those probably isn't such a terrible idea. But it's an interesting business model, right? Like you're getting donations and volunteers, and you're giving a bunch of free stuff away to people, and and you're traveling across the country, and 75 fans are showing up. I mean, the business model does seem a little bit askew, so it's not terribly surprising. But we all can agree there was too many bowls anyway. So if you're lopping off a couple of these here, when I do the game with you and Eric Lopez next year, and I ask you who the LA Bowl is, you will have no recollection that the LA Bowl does not exist. So.
You're behind a lot of games. I think my favorite though was men's tennis player or jockey. I struggled with that one. Yeah, that one. UCF Feisty, is ladies' night a possibility? Gotta ask Mrs. Frost.
Ooh, great question.
So we saw Mrs. Frost
we did?
at the introductory press conference. I saw her a time or two slip into the media room post game. Yeah. With the kids, we saw Scott Frost. I don't know, was Mrs. Frost at the softball game last week? We saw Scott Frost on screen with his kids. It's not something she seemed to embrace, right? Through 3 seasons as the head coach's wife here at UCF.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I guess why are we assuming she has to be the one to front it, right? I mean, there certainly could be any number of people that could throw
That's
some
fair.
sort of an event like this, right? And I do think the more you can engage with the fan base, I think, and I don't want to use this as an excuse, but it comes up a lot. I do think the construction in and around that area right now is probably going to make it a tad dicier, although they're using the indoor facility a lot for things. There could be maybe some concern just about people milling about construction, yada yada yada. But it doesn't need to be a Mrs. Frost vehicle. Trace, you could run Ladies' Night for all I know.
I'd like to run Ladies. You know what I mean?
No, we all know what you mean.
You're giving me an idea. By the way, just a little team meeting. Going to need you to run the internship program fully as I put time. Missy, contact me. We'll work on Ladies' Night. UCF cart wrong. Still, I think that's my favorite.
Fantastic name.
Nebraska's former AD recently published a tell-all book, self-published tell-all book, available for $29.99 in paperback, according to Adam.
Wild price.
Where he says his wife knew Scott Frost would be terrible if Terry Mahajer could write his. Well, this seems wrong, but we'll read it as written. If Terry Mahajer could write his way out of a paper bag, it just seems wrong. What topic would you want included in the book? Tears of Terry.
Look, I think there's. I'd love.
Terry
just
Mahajer's maligned by a certain portion of the fan base. He really is.
I think there'd be the time frame between the middle of the 2024 football season until Scott Frost is at the podium being introduced as head coach. That 3 or 4 month block, which is the end of the Gus Malzahn era, sort of unraveling, Gus at that point making decisions to leave, Terry then going on a coaching search, Frost then coming back in the picture. That entire 3-4 month time period, I think, would be fascinating to kind of understand the in-depth conversations, decisions, who was saying what to who was thinking what were we trying to do behind the scenes there. I think that time period would be one I'd love to know more about.
What do you think of the working title? My UCF Cartwright, Tears of Terry. It seems
it may stick. I have a surprise for you all, by the way. I was efforting while this was going on, everybody. And so this was unplanned. But
am I gonna like it?
You are gonna love it, Trace.
Oh, okay.
That is the baseball animation from. Let's one more time, Trace. One more. There we go. This is
Michael's jumping head over heels.
Yeah, again, come for the animation.
Look at the way Nick just look at the picture he chose of himself.
I know. Little shirt and tie for Nick. Looks like he's like 12 in that picture. And I guess I need to find out, like, did he make this rendering of John Hewlett on a park himself? Is this a?
Let's take a look at that closely. Does it look like this? Where's the media table? There's some things. I don't think there's this.
No, this isn't very accurate. This isn't drawn to scale here. What are we doing?
No,
what are we doing, Nick? At least he spelled Giuliano correct, though.
Yeah, that's. So that's an interesting period. I want to know more about the conversations with Gus Malzahn and the way that was trending.
Yeah. Again, that time period, I think, is fascinating.
Yeah. He has said some things off the record, of course, minimally on the record, and just in conversations with him in the halls, about that time frame. I think it'd be interesting to hear it from his perspective. You wonder, though, in these quote unquote tell-all books, I mean, how much are they really telling all? So.
Well, if you're Bill Moose, you're telling as much for $29.99, I guess, right?
20, not even a hardback version of that book. I think if I was going to buy that book, and I don't think that's likely, I'd want the audio version.
Only if he reads it, though.
Yeah. I want to hear it in his own words when he talks about his wife being critical of the hire. I want to hear that. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. It's what's in the box time. Who's up? Are you asking the question?
Well, I don't have one prepared, so I'm gonna say it's your turn. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's your turn, Trace. And again, this is brought to you by our good friends at Warner Hoffman, Greg and Garcia. They have been supporting the show for a very long time. 70 years of legal experience, personal injury, workers' comp, veteran disability, SSI, SSDI cases. If you need them, WarnerHoffman.com or 1-800-320-HELP. And tell Michael Hoffman that we said hello when you reach out to them.
Last week's question, and this is a similar vein of question. Last week's question was the pudding sock,
yeah.
and the jelly gloves, right? Was that it?
Yes. Yep, that was
Would you rather, Adam,
Okay, here we go.
brush your teeth with ketchup or wash your hands with mustard?
I dislike both. So this is a huge problem for me. I dislike both.
Oof.
But I feel like if I have to brush my teeth with ketchup, there could be some long-term ramifications there. Like my teeth, I think at that point could have some sort of damage. At least the mustard I could scrub off my hands.
We're not saying how long you have to. I mean, it's just
am I just doing like one swipe here? What am I doing here? Or am I doing a full-on
like you would
singing
normally
happy
brush
birthday
your teeth?
twice while I'm doing that?
Yeah, but this is not saying would you rather brush your teeth in ketchup for a year. It's just saying a one-off.
I'll wash my hands in mustard, I guess. I don't.
You're
like
anti all kinds of mustard, so you don't like Cuban sandwiches with a mustard on the Cuban sandwich?
I don't. Mustard doesn't come off. It doesn't? Oh, well, I scratch that, Matt.
Matt, why do you know this?
That's a great question. Oh, the smell of mustard doesn't come off.
Ever?
Barbecue sauce, not an option, Robert. Again,
No.
banned.
Wait.
This is why you got banned earlier, Robert.
Robert, if you're going to drop a comment, you got to begin Happy New Year. Barbecue sauce. Which on the barbecue sauce? Brushing the teeth?
Nick, I wouldn't do that, Nick. I would not do this.
Oh.
Because you very well, sir, could end up.
I recognize that photo.
we all do, Trace. We all do. Everybody does. It's a fantastic photo. You didn't answer the question, by the way. Just
Me?
Yeah, you didn't answer.
I don't really care much about ketchup or mustard, but I don't like things on my hands, so I would not do that. I didn't answer the question last week. I don't want the gloves full of anything, so I just would deal with the socks full of pudding and brush my teeth with ketchup.
I think that's the right answer.
I think that's the right answer. I enjoyed the conversation with Marshall from Pistols Firing. Good name for that show, by the way. Not Pistons Firing. That's the Detroit Pistons podcast.
So our intern producer Miguel had some connection issues. I don't know if he's still in the stream.
Is he gone? Is he in the green room?
I've been hitting the buttons for a while now. Can we tell the story that we had? Is that fair to tell? So behind the scenes of the Sons of UCF here, this is Sons Plus stuff right here. We have our rundown that we go through each night. You can't see that, don't worry about it. And Trace writes in there the name of the guest, and Miguel is making all the stuff, the visuals on screen. And Trace wrote Marshall Scott. Next line says Pistols Firing. And so Miguel
That's accurate information. That's accurate
information. Miguel thought we wanted a sound effect of a pistol firing and was trying to figure out how he could pull together the sound effect of a pistol firing.
You know who I think we should ask? I think we should ask Nick Williams. Nick, could you work on some sort of...
I feel like this is like a South Park animation. I don't know if you're a South Park fan, but very much reminds me of South Park.
And we want to thank
yes, just plain hot. No, you know what? I'll throw some relish on the hot dogs, Michael.
Did you, by the way, at the end of Rounding the Bases with Michael and Nick, there's a question about number of hot dogs that Michael's going to consume this baseball season. I think that was 45. It's a lot. It's more than one a game. I think that was the number. Michael, maybe you can update me on that. Well, how many hot dogs do you consume a year? It's not 45.
Ooh,
a couple.
Less than 5.
Less than 5.
Yeah, not a huge hot dog fan.
See you all out at John Giuliano Park this weekend. Say hi to Andrew Gregg, Michael, and as well Nick Williams. We'll all be out there. Felix will be out there for some games as well, as will I. For Adam Eaton, I'm Trace Strelko. Go Knights!
Charge on.
Hi, I'm Terry Mahajer, and you're watching the Sons of UCF Live.
Potential author of the book Tears of Dairy.
I had to go back in the archives and find that one. That's really cool.
Where is that from? Jeez.
We have a lot in there. I found the treasure trove. We may have to break these out.
I want to see the all the Mackenzie Meltons together. That's the one. Boom, boom, boom. Fire those 3 together. 3 or 4
Working
together.
on it.
Mustard, ketchup.